So in the bottom left from Team Beast, we have Khrane. And in the top right from Team Supply Block, the White Zerg, we have Bayou. I don't know, I mean, I've watched Bayou play these last couple weeks, and he's already improved quite a bit. He's improving pretty fast. I like that. He's putting the effort in, and it shows. I know Khrane is probably one of the stronger B teamers.
Yeah, definitely. Even just on Team Beast alone, I would say Khrane is definitely one of the better players on our team in general. In fact, our coach Beast is thinking about moving him up to the A team pretty soon. So
Yeah,
it's a bit unfortunate that while he's still a B teamer, he has to kind of play up against players like Bayou, who might not be the same caliber.
yeah, but like any player can win, if they perform and execute a well thought out strategy, they can still take a game too. So anything can happen.
Oh, definitely for sure. It's at lower levels of play. Like if you're not like some 2K 2200 MMR player, we make all sorts of mistakes, right? So
Oh,
if the right player makes the right decision, they can definitely be beating players much better than them.
and we do see Bayou going for a 9 pool speed, so he's looking to be a little aggressive here. We'll see if Khrane reacts properly. Was that a 12 or 11 forge? I didn't notice.
I think I'm not too sure actually, but yeah, considering we're all Team Beast members, I will go out on a limb and say it was probably 12 Forge.
Okay. Oh, he didn't have enough. Oh no. Bayou was supply blocked by the time his pool finished, so he wasn't able to make his lings right away.
Oh yeah, that mistakes like that can be so huge.
Especially if you're opening something like this, which is pretty aggressive.
Yeah, so like in if you're a Terran player and you want to BBS somebody and you forget a like, supply depot, you'll be able to afford like one Marine to rush with. So when you want to be aggressive with like speed things like this, missing your first Overlord is so crucial. Because that
Yeah, that's really
delayed
unfortunate.
these Zerglings by I don't know how much. Wait,
Yeah, like, those Zerglings would already be on their way or almost
no,
here,
actually
ready
he
to attack these cannons.
he morphed drones from his first set of larvae. So only now is he making
Oh,
Zerglings.
okay, that's interesting. Um, Maybe he thought because he supply blocked himself and was so far behind, he wasn't going to do any damage with it anyway. So he decided to just drone up.
Yeah,
But
so
in either case, he's already put himself behind because of that.
yeah, the build order for Bayou so far has been pretty messy. He went for the early pool, early gas, but because of yeah, he lost or forgot to make the Overlord, he decided to not mine gas. And so effectively these two buildings are kind of useless to him. They would have been much better off as drones for him to mine with.
Yeah. Um, Part of the reason to make the 9 pool and go for speed like this is to put on some early pressure and force a second cannon, which it looks like he already did force a second cannon. Khrane playing extra safe, making that second cannon because he didn't want to die. So it did that, but he could have done so much more if his build was on time.
And
Everything was ready to go.
interesting choice by Khrane. I think he mined out the mineral patch that's part of the wall on this map. So he made
Uh,
another gap. I'm not sure if
uh,
the gap is ling tight in general anyway, but yeah, he just made himself a bigger gap for Zerglings to run by, which I'm not sure I
Now,
agree with.
I'm not sure if Khrane did that or if Bayou did that because there was talk in my team about mining that out, doing a 9 pool speed and mining that out, and I did see a drone make itself on Crane's natural gas and cancel. So I'm thinking he actually mined it out. Bayou did, but I didn't notice. So. But we do see he managed to get some lings into Crane's base, which is really nice. If he can pick off a bunch of probes here, he can make up for some of that early game. He did get a couple.
Yeah, these Zerglings are doing so much damage, picking off probes here and there, as well as just delaying a bunch of mining time. Really good run by from him, but his rally might not be the cleanest. Just ran in some Zerglings for free.
Yeah, I noticed that, and he's got a few more coming over, so I hope he doesn't do the same thing again with them. Yeah, this wall isn't the greatest. Like, Zerglings can run in between the forge and gateway there. There's like a few different places between the pylon. Oh, he's gonna lose a couple more.
Yeah, so it seems like Bayou wasn't paying attention to his rally, and he's been streaming in some Zerglings. Hopefully
That's
he notices and he pulls these units back in time. In general, these units coming out of these hatcheries should have been drones much earlier. So the entire time he's been aggressive with his Zerglings, he hasn't been mining at it from his natural at all, which, yeah, it's going to put him really, really far behind.
And we do see him throwing down a Hydralisk den now, and a 4th hatchery. I don't know if I agree with this. Like, he can't really afford 4 hatcheries and to make Hydras off them with the so few drones that he has. Like, he's got, what, 5 on minerals and 2 on gas?
Yeah, his saturation is definitely nowhere close to being able to provide the economy to power macro out of 4 separate hatcheries.
He's got a couple drones rallied over to in front of Toss's base now too. He's just pulling them back. Yeah, he probably should have just stayed on those 3 hatches and macroed up a bit more and then gone for the Hydralisk den if he was going to do some early Hydra play. Let's see. Looks like he's trying to take out the cannons, but I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah, this is definitely too little too late. At this point, he's just kind of decreasing his own standing army. If Protoss ever does decide to push out, he's just going to have less Zerglings to deal with it.
Yeah, like, Bayou's pretty far behind at this point.
Yeah, so at his bases, he has maybe 10 drones mining minerals right now.
And this is another drone for free outside Protoss's base. And another drone rallied across the map. So definitely something to look out for. Watch your rallies. He does sneak 2 more Zerglings into the main, so he can get some scouting off. He can maybe kill a couple of probes. But I don't think he's going to be able to do too much at this point.
Yeah, so by constantly giving away these Zerglings, I think this is doing more damage to Bayou than it is to himself. Because really, all these Zerglings, they could have been drones like 2-3 minutes ago. He could have had a much stronger economy, and maybe that would have made his Hydra attack a little bit scarier. But instead, he sacrificed his economy for, streaming in Zerglings into Khrane's base, which Khrane did defend pretty well. Yeah, so.
And as we can see, like, he still hasn't made any Hydralisks whatsoever, but he's had that Hydra den for a while. And I don't think he's gotten any Hydralisk upgrades either, so that den was basically, again, a drone that could have been mining or used for nothing. I mean, if you're gonna make it, you want to be using it. But I don't think he should have made it when he did because he couldn't afford to.
And I think the most basic advice, especially to our B teamers who are looking to improve their macro component, drones or miners, your workers, that's like the backbone of everything. If you're able to make more probes, more SCVs, more drones, that translates to more money, to more units, more tech. So that's honestly one of the easiest fixes to your macro. Is to just make more workers first and sooner.
Yeah. If you, as Zerg, like, it's a little more complex as Zerg, but if you are going to commit to the units early, you have to, do damage with it, because where Terran and Protoss are concerned, they're constantly making workers, especially early on. So their macro is going to get further ahead if you don't do any damage with the units you're making. So the point of doing an aggressive build like a 9 pool speed is to do enough damage to either kill the Protoss or minimize the economic advantage he's going to gain from continually making probes.
Yeah, so with this upcoming Zealot attack, I don't know if Bayou's going to be able to hold this. Boop.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like +1 speed, timing attack. It's really late, but Bayou doesn't have much to defend.
Yeah, I think if Khrane was a little bit more bold, I think he could have really pressured this situation and possibly done a lot of damage. because the the building morphing was a spore, not a sunken. Oh, there is a DT out and about too with this army. So really, if Khrane attacks at any time, he can attack the Nat, he can attack the third, and both places would probably go down.
Yeah, he could just run up here with his zealots and kill this third at this point.
Yeah, so
It looks like
the DT was able to find a pretty nice timing to kind of sneak in before these Sunkens finished. So it looks like with all these zealots on top of the Sunkens, this base is impossible to hold.
So he's gonna lose this third base. Nothing he can do to save it. He's just the early game stuff put him really far behind, and at this point he's got nothing really. Like we can see Khrane's taking his third base. He's getting his Dragoons and Templars out.
Yeah, if you compare the supplies for both players, yeah, it's the story is told there. At any time, if Khrane decides to attack, he should be able to just roll over his opponent.
Yeah, looks like he just wants to play it safe, get his third base up, get a decent Dragoon mass out, and then he'll wait for his 2-0 and probably go.
Yeah, so overall, pretty nice standard game from Khrane. He's playing this about as standard as you can get. He defended the Zerglings really well, and he's looking to expand while he moves out with a 2-0 army, a +2 attack upgraded Protoss army.
And we can see, Khrane's moving across the map here, and I don't think Bayoo's gonna have enough to defend this. And this army is just massive. He's 100 supply up.
And something really good that I'm noticing from Khrane as well, he is very active with his Corsairs. So a lot of players sometimes they kind of build their Corsairs and just have them sitting on top of their Nexus. So they're kind of like the, what if my opponent makes Mutalisk, then I'll be good. But Khrane is doing a really nice job of scouting with his Corsairs and making sure that Zerg doesn't have any, stray overlords out on the map.
That's definitely something I have to get better at, is using my Corsairs a little more actively. I have a little bit lower APM and don't always use my Corsairs as well as I should. But, I mean, I've been trying to improve on that and scouting around with them. So I like to see that he's moving them and checking for bases and everything. Playing very aware of what he needs to do. Doesn't want to let Zerg get back into this game.
Right, it looks like the 2-0 timing attack from Protoss is about to hit right now. And yeah, there's observers with the army too.
Yeah, he is making a couple of lurkers, but with the observers here, it's over. It's just a matter of.
What I really like from Khrane, he's playing this really patiently. A lot of players, especially when they think they're far ahead, they can kind of just A-move into the Zerg base. But he's being very patient. He's sitting his Dragoons right outside the base, taking out hatcheries for free, taking out the Spore Colony. It's really good patient play. And once this sort of wall gets taken down, then it's much easier to kind of run in and kill everything.
Yeah.
So let's see what he does here.
Yeah, no, I like this player for the most part. A couple things to clean up, but he's playing really well. I could definitely see him being an A-teamer.
Yeah, and while he's putting on this pressure, he's taking a fourth as well and making cannons to defend it. So really, really nice multitask. He's able to put on pressure in one area, and he knows that he's safe to expand behind it.
Yeah, I mean, Zerg's trying desperately to make some more units and put together whatever he can, but this Protoss army is just so big at this point. There's really nothing that Zerg can do.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before,
for the big attack now.
Once that wall kind of came down, it freed up so much room for Khrane to just come running in with all of his units.
Yeah.
So his High Templars are kind of ahead of his army. Yep. They died.
Unfortunate, but he only has Dragoons here, and Lings can tear it, but like it's over, right?
Yeah, the supply difference is ridiculously large.
Bit unfortunate. Looked like a bit of a mismatch almost, but it happens sometimes.
Yeah, but
We
Bayou
can't always
played well.
guarantee.
The execution was a bit off, but there were definitely ideas. It seemed like he had a strategy prepared. Open up with the speedlings, make 4 hatcheries, try to pump Hydra, get lurkers. So the game plan was kind of there. It's just he hit a lot of roadblocks in the way, um, which really delayed his timings and threw him off, put him behind.
Yeah, something that could be cleaned up just with practice and repetition. Just doing the build over and over against Protoss opponents, or even in single player, just to get it down. Make sure you're not supply blocking yourself early and everything. Maybe you can do something here in game number 2.
Yeah, and personally for me, I think a really good way to approach the game, especially after you lose, is to try to play the next one and telling yourself, like actively thinking, I'll avoid the mistake that got me killed last game, or I'll avoid making the same mistake that put me so behind last game. Um, so, ideally, the first step is remember your overlord so that you can build circlings with your Nightpool speed build.
Well, we'll see if he tries to open the same thing again this game, or if he goes for something different. A little bit more standard map here, Circuit Breaker. Walls are a little bit easier to construct. We'll see. Generally, I think this is considered slightly Zerg favored over Protoss for a map.
Yeah,
But
it's
I don't think it'll make too much difference at these levels.
Yeah, circuit breakers. It's at a high level. It's really really difficult for Protoss to kind of secure their third gas. Well, when you compare it to other maps like Fighting Spirit, you can take your third gas extremely easily. But on this map, you have to kind of stay on Mass Zealot a little longer, and Zerg has a lot of avenues of attack to kind of take out your expansions.
So we have here up 1-0, we have Khrane here in the bottom right. That's the purple Protoss. And in the top right, we have the teal Zerg Bayou. One thing to notice right away is Bayou sending his Overlord across the map. I mean, that's not necessarily wrong or bad, but generally you want to be able to scout the closest natural. So in circuit breakers, that would be scouting up or down, depending on where you are. So you see the natural first to see if your opponent's there. It just gives you scouting a little bit earlier if they are there. Just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, so it looks like Bayou's opening up with the exact same build. He's going to be trying to do a 9-pull speed. Unfortunately, the probe does scout this immediately, so Khrane should have more than enough time to react. Yeah, he's throwing down the forge, and as long as he builds 2 cannons immediately, he should be completely fine.
If Bay doesn't supply block or larva, he is getting his Overlord now. Let's see. And I did notice this game, it was an 11 forge. So the spawning pool finished and the Overlord's not quite done yet, and he has 2 larvae, so I don't know if he made an extra drone or something without. Generally, I think as soon as the pool's finished, you should be making the 6 lings. So maybe a little behind, or you missed something, but notice.
Yeah, but regardless, so Khrane did exactly throw down those 2 cannons, so he should be more than ready to deal with these Zerglings. And oh, I think we missed it.
Yeah,
the probe got a kill.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Killed one of the drone. And we see Bayou just chasing around this probe with 4 lings. I mean, if you're opening 9-pool speed like this, it is an aggressive build, so you probably only want to send 1 ling, if any, to chase the probe around, and use the other to go pressure your opponent. If Khrane noticed, like, oh, he's not sending any lings to my base, he could have even cancelled one of the cannons, just to get everything else up earlier, if he knew new pressure was coming.
Yeah, that's a good point, Snipe.
Just something to be wary of for both players. But he is sending the lings across now. There's not much he's going to be able to do. 2 cannons are already up. The gateway's morphing in, so there's not a lot of room. And he's making drones now as well, so Khrane should be completely fine here.
Yeah, so overall, I would say Khrane is definitely, I would say he's ahead in this position because not only did he have the quicker expansion, he's, I think, on a pretty good path to teching, whereas Bayou's not mining gas at the moment, so he won't be building a lair anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm not sure what build Bayou's going for, but if he is going for a lair, generally you want to have it started at the same time the core is started. And the core is already half done, and we see no lair started.
Oh, and an interesting place to place the third hatchery.
Yeah. I don't know if I like that. Like, generally, Zerg, you don't want to be expanding toward Protoss. It just gives them closer spot to attack.
Right.
Easier to attack, especially when the speed zealot timing comes. If he did want to take a gas base as his third, I would have taken either the 12 o'clock or top left main.
Yeah, because the only reason I can see him justifying building a hatchery in this position, maybe he's going to go 3 hatch. Oh, he does have hydrogen. Okay, so then this makes sense. He wants to build the hatchery closer to the Protoss wall, basically, so the hydras that spawn have less travel distance. So in that case, it makes sense what he's doing.
Could be nice then, yeah. We'll have to see how it plays out, because I don't think Khrane scouted this, so he doesn't know it's coming. He does have the Stargate on the way. Normally the Hydras would hit before the Stargate can scout it though, and by that time it's too late. By the time the Stargate scouts 3-hatch Hydra, it's already too late for Protoss if they haven't already scouted out and started throwing down extra cannons. But we don't see any Hydras having been started yet. He's still making drones.
And I'm not sure if this is the case, but Bayou might have been a bit slow on his Hydra upgrades. So the Hydra Den might have been done for a while, but he didn't start his upgrades immediately, which can be a pretty big deal. You want to have every single, advantage possible. So as soon as a building's finished, you want to research whatever upgrade it is you need.
So the first Corsair is out now, and he's scouting up the base. He sees the hatchery at 3 o'clock. He sees the natural, and he sees no lair in a Hydra Den. So the Hydralisk should already be like at the front door here. So I don't know what he messed up or where he went wrong in the build, but it does seem a little late because usually the Hydralisk should be attacking by now.
Yeah, so an interesting response from Khrane. Generally, when you see players 3-hatch Hydra you want to throw down a total of, you want to have 4 cannons basically as soon as possible. But he's actually going to be aggressive with his first 5 Zealots. And the fact he's been able to kill at least, I think, 2 Overlords. So this is going to really, really slow down the Zerg. Because the whole point of this is they want to have, they sacrifice the Econ and they want to pump a lot of Hydras early to do a lot of damage. But, yeah, it seems like these, what were supposed to be offensive Hydras are kind of now stuck playing babysitter.
And now this close hatch too is being attacked. Like, because it's so close, he wasn't able to reinforce it quickly enough. And Protoss is able to attack it pretty easily, and he's losing a bunch more Overlords, fly blocking him again.
Yeah, so really unfortunate that he wasn't able to properly execute his strategy. Khrane is playing very nicely though. He's able to attack the third while kind of flying around the main and the nat, trying to pick off Overlords. So it can be really difficult to play against a Protoss that multitasks better.
We see Khrane still flying around the map. There's a couple of Overlords out there. If you found them, you could just pick them off. I don't know about having these Overlords just randomly around the map like this. Because if he does find them, you can pick them off. Normally you would have a few Hydras that could keep the Corsairs away from your Overlords at your base.
Yeah, I actually like the concept because he doesn't really have much to defend against these Corsairs. So his best bet really is to just hide the overlords, right? Like, we don't expect Corsairs to ever be around in these two areas of the map anytime soon.
I mean, maybe, but he just flew through the base and only saw 2 overlords.
Yeah.
Like, okay, he's got more units than that if he's paying attention, so he's probably got overlords somewhere on the map. And they're just easy pickings, just sitting around if he was looking for them.
Yeah, but in general, I feel like most Protoss players, they're not going to have the APM to kind of do that, you know?
At least at our level, anyway.
Yeah.
Or
'Cause
B team level.
it might be a lot more efficient of your time to spend building an expansion or macroing from your gateways or teching versus using your Corsairs to kind of hunt overlords in random spots on the map. And so far it's working out for Bayou. He was able to successfully kind of keep these overlords safe.
We see the speed lot attack again is a bit late, so there's probably some build execution. Wrong with the build execution. But I mean, again, he's already ahead. Quite a bit ahead. Like
I think what Khrane's doing is he's just, rather than throwing away your first 7-8 zealots with +1, he's gonna save them all so that when he has storm, he can just push all at once, which I think is a pretty smart idea. At this point, Zerg is really far behind. They lost their 3rd hatchery. Yeah, there's not much they can do. The only thing I can see that would keep him in the game longer is if his lurker upgrades finish in time and he's able to have it ready before the attack comes.
UDC finds one of the overlords. He's now moving out with the Zealot Templar. And, I mean, it's 2 base Protoss versus 2 base Zerg. Generally, that's going to favor Protoss.
Yeah, and also the lurker upgrade is just about to finish. So by the time these Protoss units hit, yeah, lurkers should not be in time. Yeah, let's see if Khrane decides to attack. Ooh. So he's swinging his army up around. I think he expects there to be another base here. Which is kind of unfortunate because the longer he spends running around, that just gives Zerg that much more time to build lurkers. It doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. Yeah, pretty solid game from Khrane. Really good macro on his part.
Yeah, he's taking his 3rd Nexus at about the right timing. Throwing it down, knowing like Zerg has nothing, he can't really pressure this or do anything to stop him from taking it. He's pressuring the 3rd, he's got his Dragoons coming over now. And he can basically start hammering away at the wall like we saw last game.
Yeah, well this time it's going to be a little harder to do that without having a bunch of Dragoons with range. But as I say that, here they come, I guess.
Yeah, range is just about done, so... Nice timing.
Yeah, so Khrane is, showing us a really good example of putting on pressure and expanding behind it, right? So that's kind of like a pretty common 1-2 sort of combo, where as you're attacking, you want to use the opportunity to expand. Because while the player, they're defending your attack, that frees you up to kind of take the rest of the map.
So, yeah, he's just breaking down this wall here, and I don't think Bay's got enough to hold this off. Like, basically the same thing we saw. This is the 2-0 timing. It's actually a little bit earlier this game, and it's just... he's got a couple of lurkers, but we can see Khrane has an op floating in. Honestly, I don't think there's anything Zerg's going to be able to do as soon as Khrane decides to move in and attack. Oh, but he might lose that ob. Bit unfortunate flying the ob over the spore. It's annoying, it happens all the time to me too.
This might be one of those situations where storms alone might be enough to just kill off all these lurkers.
I mean, there's only 2 lurkers here, so he could even just ignore them at this point, although he does have a few more morphing on the run. Looks like he's gonna back out with some units and go behind the minerals with some others. Pick off the drones. Nice storm.
Yeah, he picks off all the lurkers. Pretty good control by Khrane. He was paying attention to his units. In
He has a
addition
couple more
to,
ops flying over.
he kind of whiffs his probe transfer timing at the fourth. But
GG.
yeah, small matter. Really well played. Yeah, it seems like Bayou messed up his timings quite a bit for the 3-Edge Hydra, but Khrane had really good control and timings. He was able to do everything he wanted at the appropriate times.
Bit of a mismatch, it looked like, but unfortunate. Well played. Well played by Khrane. Well played by Bayou.
Yeah, so if Beast gets his way, Khrane will probably be moving up to the A team very, very, very soon.
Yeah, I could see that.